Okay.
Hello, everybody, and good evening. It's with great pleasure and privilege that I sit before you guys and gals today on this beautiful August 28th, Tuesday. The real time is 6:33, and we are going to start with our invocation by Pastor Domingo Vela with Templo de Liberación, followed by Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Mr. Pete Crisp.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day that you have given us. Thank you for allowing us to be in this meeting tonight. We invite your presence that you will come and be with the city council, with the mayor, that everything, the Father, that has to be discussed will be in one accord, and your presence will be with them, and the wisdom that you will give them to make the right decisions. I thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And number 2, citizen comments and public announcements. And we do not have citizen comments tonight. Okay. Public announcements. Ms. Carrasco, you have any announcements to make?
None at this time.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp?
Not at this time.
Mr. Molina?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I wanted to recognize Mr. Raul Armidas with State Farm. Today, we had a Protect the Protectors campaign, and State Farm did contribute Canary devices to 70 of our first responders. And so it's a very generous donation. The Canary devices are to help help our first responders feel comfortable when they're out there. People are in need. They're out there, but their families are at home, their property's at home, and so this is kind of helping them be at ease. And so Mr. Ramirez had come to me and asked if we were able to accept those donations, and I said, sure, I think our first responders do deserve that, and so I want to thank him for getting that together.
Thank you. At this time, I would just like to ask everybody to stand again, and if we can all together go into a moment of silence for a business icon in our town. Mr. Finley gained his wings on Saturday. He was a great contributor to our city in all ways, shapes, and forms. He is truly a committed citizen. He committed himself to the betterment of our community, contributed in so many ways that some of us would never even know, and never asked for anything in return. He gave and gave and gave, and will continue. His legacy will live on. So if we could all please rise and have a little moment of silence for Mr. William Finley. Thank you. Okay, number 3, city manager report, including status of chip seal project, San Diego Creek Levee, air show, hot air balloon event, update on various grants and other relevant items. Mr. Esparza?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The chip seal project was completed in May. Just want to give you all a quick update on that. The engineering inspections and felt that it was at least 95% of the project was in accordance with how it was supposed to be. There are some areas that we had concern on, but we do have a 1-year warranty on that, and so as we go closer to the end of the year, we'll do an additional inspection and see if there are streets that need to be addressed. And so once, and the 1 year is from the date of completion, so we have till May. So December, January, parts of February, we'll be reviewing those streets again. And if there's some places that really need work, it will be addressed. But overall, it was a pretty good project, and we're looking forward to doing some more chip sealing. The San Diego Creek Levee, we are waiting to get a date together with FEMA to have a conference call. We have some ideas. We're trying to get some flood height lowered. We've done a lot of research on our levee, and our engineering department has done a whole lot to show that the numbers and the levels that FEMA has are probably incorrect. And they're doing this throughout the country. You know, we're here, we're taking a lot of measurements, and so we feel that we have some cause to have them readjust those levels on our maps. And so what we want to do is make a proposal, let them know what we plan on proposing them before we spend money on it, so they can come back and so they can let us know if they think it has a potential. So that the conference call should happen next week. We've been asked about air shows and whether we have the potential of having some here. We have had some in the past, but I want to let y'all know that I was in contact with some of the people that the associations have put that on, and there is potential for having some here, city sponsored. We may have to hire a consultant to do that. That's something that it does take about a year in advance to plan for. The feedback that I'm getting is if we want to have one, it probably should be toward the end of the season, which is the October or November dates of next year. And I did talk to Juan at the chamber to see if he had an interest in helping kind of gather some information so we can see if that has potential for our community. The last time we didn't have an air show. The Third Coast Squadron had an air show. I think it was, they had 3 back-to-back, 2005, 6, and 7. The first one was pretty profitable, the second one a little bit less, and I think the third one, I think sometimes what they're saying is you don't want to have them back-to-back years, you want to alternate years, and the third one didn't make any money, but it's something that we want to look into and see if there's potential there. Same thing with a hot air balloon event. That's a big industry. There's races, there's glow races, there's festivals tied to that. That's something that we can consider also. It would be something more for our climate, probably could be something toward the October, November season also, and maybe at night. But I did talk to Juan about that at the chamber to see if he had an interest in, and he does, in helping us put something together, and just seeing if it has potential. And there's some type of, if there'd be some revenue that could come in and generate more activity here in town. Grants, wanted to let you guys know we have some pending grants, and we're looking in some new grants. But to give you an idea, just to remind you guys, we have the NIBRS grant, which is pending. We have the 2018 Homeland Security grant for hazmat for the fire department. We also have the state JAG state JAG grant, which is for in-car mobile cameras that we're working on, and the 2019 local border security grant that we're working on as well. And then there's a community foundation grant that we're working on. All these are going to be grants for this year, starting September 1st on 2 of them, October 1st for some of the others. And there's several that, as we come at the next few meetings, several other ones that we'll be trying to present and try to work on as well. Another item that I wanted to update you guys on is we did get a notice from the Texas Water Development Board on they gave us an invitation to submit for that water development, clean water grant that the city applied for. So that's a $4.9 million grant that we received. The letter to invitation to proceed was received actually yesterday, and that's kind of part of the one that we want to have a meeting with the water authority on those kind of things. And I'm sorry, that's a loan for that. Yeah. So that's all I have for my item.
Okay. Agenda item number 4, consider and act upon approval of City Council minutes for the August 14th, 2018 City Council meeting. Council, if anybody has anything to correct, add, or anything? Mr. Molina, anything?
Looks good.
Mr. Chris?
No.
No? Mr. Burke?
No problem.
Ms. Carrasco? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to accept minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion stands as stated. Agenda item number 5, the City Council may enter into closed or executive session for the following matters: attorney consultation pursuant to Section 551.0712 Texas Government Code to provide legal advice and counsel in connection with the city's legal rights, duties, privileges, and obligations under Chapter 174, Texas Local Government Code arising out of the pending collective bargaining negotiations between the City of Alice and the duly recognized majority bargaining agent for the city's firefighter personnel.
Mayor, I had this agenda item because the association voted on Saturday. I was hoping that they were going to approve the offer that we had, but they voted it down. So this agenda item, I did sign before that meeting, I signed an impasse extension in case they didn't vote it for ratification. I'm going to ask that this agenda item be tabled. I'd like to, we're actually in negotiations until September 7th now, and we have a scheduled meeting. It's not a scheduled meeting yet. We have a date of August the 31st for a mediator to visit on a conference call with myself, our attorney, and Mr. Novato and Mr. Rafael Todes, the lead negotiator for the association, and Mark Hill, the association president. And so I'm hoping that we've been working together since May, I think May the 20th, on an agreement, but we haven't been able to come to terms, and I'm hoping we'll be able to come to terms at that point and figure out a way forward. So I'll ask that this agenda item be tabled, as well as agenda item number 6.
I'll move for the tabling of agenda item number 5, executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated to
And
table number 5 and number 6.
Yeah, I'll move to also table agenda item number 6. Any pending action?
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated to table item 6. Agenda item number 7, consider and act upon authorizing city manager to enter into an extension of a professional services agreement with Carlisle Corrigan Benefits LLC for employee group, health, dental, life, and vision insurance consulting services.
Mayor, this is we have Ted Bearden here with Carlisle Insurance. They're our consultant. They also do everything else that's involved with our enrollments and terminations, and also Mr. Zach Gingrich with Carlisle. We're in the process of open enrollment for our health insurance benefits. Their contract ends September 30th. They've been doing a great job helping us get all these, with the RFP process, with the enrollments, with all the questions going back and forth between the TPIA, the stop loss carrier, and everything that the agents are supposed to be doing. They're our consultants, so we're not paying commission to any agents to do any of the work. I'd like to extend their contract for another term. In the meantime, after enrollments, there's always work to be done with claims, with terminations, with changes, and all those things. So they're our resource for throughout the year, and so they're here if you guys have any questions for them. But we're recommending that we extend the contract for another term.
Okay.
It is a professional services contract. So
you don't have to go out for RFQs.
Okay.
And there is a max spend on this, correct?
50,000. Is that correct?
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Carrasco, any questions?
Not at this time.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp? Mr. Molina?
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on agenda item number 7.
Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into an extension for professional services agreement with Carlisle Corrigan, right? Did I say it right? Corrigan Benefits LLC for employee group health, dental, life, and vision insurance consulting services.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Agenda item number 8, consider and act upon an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Alice, Texas, authorizing the sale of real property, more particularly described as Rialto Theater, original town site, Block 16, East 20, Lot 11, West 20, Lot 12, sorry, and City of Alice, County of Jim Wells, State of Texas, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents relating thereto, providing a savings clause, a severability clause, and an effective date.
Mayor, this is the Rialto Theater sale. We have Josh Flotis that's gonna speak on it, but it's been something that has been hanging over us for a long time, and we finally decided to put it up for sale properly and received a bid, and Josh is going to talk about it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So yes, since 2014, councils have passed and the President have had the will to sell this property for the purposes of it being restored as a theater or other venue for the City of Alice. It being in our downtown district, the restoration and placing it back on the tax rolls would benefit us greatly. The city did advertise on August 1st and in the 5th in the local newspaper. On August the 6th, the city manager, myself, and Barbara Reeves opened what we had received was one bid, and I believe that information will be made to you. At that bid opening, of course, it was just the one, and we do recommend proceeding, of course, as directed in the ordinance with certain conditions, being, of course, the time frame for construction to begin, a time frame for completion, and ideally for the restoration of the facility as it was. That's all we have for staff.
And the bid was for $6,000, and it was by Mr. Richard Davis out of California. He has an interest. He's apparently done some of these before. He has an interest in renovating it back to the way it was, and he sounds pretty excited about it. We do have some language in this ordinance that that gives him 12 months to begin work and 48 months to complete work. And if he doesn't comply with those, then the property reverts back to the city. And our city attorney reviewed the ordinance, and it's in proper form.
Yes, we just need, and the right of reverter, that's what that fee simple determinable is. It's just a fee that is determined at an event that happens at a later time. The fee is the interest in property. And so in this particular situation, you want a right of reverter, as we had discussed. And basically what happens is he fails to meet the first condition, it reverts automatically back to the City of Alice. We just need to be certain in the deed that he signs that that is in there as a reservation. And so we let these two guys talk to him about it, then we prepare the deed, and hopefully he signs it. And then if he isn't completed by 4 years,
Yes,
then
4 years.
Again, it reverts automatically back to ownership of the city. And you all, that we did that because you all had your fears of him taking things out of the building to renovate other theaters that he has, and this way we make certain that he's interested in Alice is going to renovate it.
Okay, Council, any questions? Mr. Molina? No questions. Mr. Crisp?
No.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Carrasco? Okay, and I don't.
I think it's a good deal.
I'll entertain a motion at this time, Council.
Mayor, I make a motion for for an ordinance of the City of Alice, authorizing the sale of real property, more particularly described as Rialto Theater Original Town Site, Block 16, East 20, Lot 11, West 20, Lot 12, City of Alice, County of Jim Wells, State of Texas, and authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents relative thereof.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Very good. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, Council.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, good things. Agenda item number 9. Consider and act upon an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Alice, Texas, authorizing the lease of a property of real property, more particularly known as the Alice Armory Building, being 5 acres of land out of Block 57, Alice Farm Block subdivision of the City of Alice, County of Jim Wells, Texas, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents relating thereto, providing a savings clause, a severability clause, and an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the Armory. Del Mar was leasing it. They're no longer leasing it. We want to open it up for other nonprofits or other entities to try to lease that property. If it is a governmental entity, we don't need to do the RFQ process for it, but we could do interlocal agreements. But we do want to have all the options open, so.
We do. So it would be the request of staff to, under Texas Local Government Code 272, for the council to authorize us to go for bids. Because the city manager and I have also been approached by private entities that would like to utilize a portion of the space there for leasing. So similar to the other agenda item, this would be specifically for leasing a portion of the building. Again, should that authorization be approved, we'll be doing the same as we did in the past, 2 notices in the newspaper. An effective of lease can happen 14 days, if I'm not mistaken, after the second publication. So we'll proceed in the same manner we did for the Rialto.
And just as a point of clarification, Mayor, that in these regards, I think what staff wants to do is they want to have the option, and that's why it's general. It doesn't say go out for an RFP. If it's a private or a non-interlocal entity, then they have to use an RFP. However, if another government entity comes along, then they don't have to. And if you have it general, then they should be able to do either one without having to come back to council.
Okay. Mr. Molina, any questions?
No question.
Mr. Chris?
Nope.
Mr. Burke?
No question.
Ms. Carrasco? Nope. Okay. So this is just any, like, there's not one in particular. It would just be here on forward.
He just throws it out there and says, hey, you guys want to lease it? They've had some interest.
Yes.
They've had some interest from other government entities and then some private entities.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
The private have been nonprofit, right?
Correct. They're nonprofit so far.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's no stipulation, right?
No,
Like
no, ma'am.
Like we just want it rented.
Yes.
As possible. Right. Okay. Very good. Council, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Yeah, I'll move for approval of an ordinance of the City of Council of the City of Alice, authorizing the lease of a portion of real property, more particularly known as the Alice Armory Building, being 5 acres of land out of Block 57, Alice Farm Block Subdivision of City of Alice, County of Jim Wells, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents relating thereto, providing a savings clause, a severability clause, and an effective date.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion stands as stated.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay, agenda item number 10, consider and act upon presentation from Robert Tijerina of Estrada Hinojosa and Company Incorporated regarding the Texas Water Development Board loan applications for A, project information form 12813, wastewater collection infrastructure improvements, and B, PIF 12622, supplementing water resources for the city of Alice.
Mayor, this item also, we're going to request it to be tabled. They had a talk to the Water Authority today. This is a project that we're working on jointly with them, and they were recommending that the Water Authority wanted to have a joint meeting with us to discuss these issues and the financing of it. And they asked if we would table this and schedule a meeting. Maybe, I believe they were looking at the mid-September 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere around there. To schedule a joint meeting. So at that time, we'll be able to go over financing options, and we won't have to go just back and forth. We'll just do it all at once and be able to communicate jointly. So I ask that this item be tabled.
Okay, council?
Per city manager's request, I would like move to table item number 10, the Estrada Hinojosa presentation.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Agenda item number 11, hear presentation from the Alice Police Department regarding statistics for second quarter calls for service, arrest, and citation information within the city of Alice.
Mayor, our Police Chief Rex Ramon is going to do his quarterly presentation to us.
Mayor, Council. The first numbers that y'all see up there, the call for service on April of this year were 1,144 calls for service. In May, there were 1,267, and in June of this year, there was 1,208. Total calls for service were 3,619. Adult arrest in May and April, there were 95. In May, there were 89. And in June, there were 90. A total of 274. the juvenile detention, there were 9 detained in April, 18 detained in May, and 4 detained in June. The citation and warning tickets, in April, there were 138 citations and 128 warnings. The total for April of citations, and warnings were 266. In May, the citations were 230. There were 165 warnings, and there were the total there was 395. In June, the citations were 183, and the warning citations were 198 for a total of 381. Total citations and warnings were 1,042. Any questions on that, Mayor, Council?
Council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
No, ma'am. No
Mr.
question.
Crisp?
Just curious,
Sure.
when did we put the new set of 6 officers on the road?
When?
Yeah.
They've been on the road by themselves about a month already.
Okay.
Yes. And you can see the energy. You know, they're newcomers, and you know, I can see myself in a couple of those guys there. When I got here to Alice in 1988, you know, they're out there hustling and doing their job. Of course, still learning. You know, but from what I've seen and the training coordinator being in contact with them, and they're reporting that they're doing a good job right now.
Very good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burke? Ms. Carrasco? Chief, I have a question.
Sure.
On your calls for service, they went up in June, but our arrest went down? Is there, like, what kind of calls we're getting?
Well, when you say calls, anywhere from a disturbance to maybe we get calls of maybe somebody just wants to vent. You know, we go make an incident on it. We get calls for, you know, dogs barking, dogs at large. Any calls that we get through dispatch, and our units are dispatched to, we activate a case.
So maybe they just weren't as threatening, maybe? That's why there was less arrest, but more calls?
Oh, no, it's had nothing, it's just, if somebody calls and we send someone, it generates a case number.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chief.
The quarterly report for the narcotic division, the unit is, again, 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, and 1 sergeant interdiction. The duties of the unit is to deter, interrupt, and dismantle narcotics distribution within the city of Alice and surrounding areas. They also assist the criminal investigation division with on-call backup duties and respond to investigative calls out as needed. The Alice Police Department works with local law enforcement agencies such as Jumeos County, Duval County, and Brooks County, and also assistant DPS and federal DPS when called upon. The following are stats regarding the duties performed by these officers during the month of On April 4th, narcotic search warrant executed in Brooks County that led to 1 arrest, 2.4 ounces synthetic marijuana on April 10th, 2018, narcotic search warrant in the city of Alice, arrest for 0.2 grams of heroin, 2 grams of methamphetamine, and 0.7 grams of marijuana, as well as April 10th, 2018, narcotic investigation in the city of Alice led to a narcotic search warrant in Duval County resulting in a seizure of 7 ounces of methamphetamine, 2.9 ounces of marijuana, 0.5 grams of heroin, 5 grams of $10,420 in U.S. currency, along with the seizure of 1 vehicle with firearm, 1 arrest. Now, that day, this case here started with a traffic stop here in Alice, and the and the investigators were able to talk to the person that they arrested, and they gathered information, and they ran with a ball that led us to Live Oak County. That this investigation here is telling us that there is narcotics coming in from out of town into Alice, and this was a big. As a matter of fact, one of the individuals that got arrested in Live Oak County was originally from Alice but moved out of town, so they're out there somewhere else. On April 13th, 2018, narcotic search warrant in the county of Jim Wells led to one arrest of 7.5 ounces of marijuana and 3 grams of cocaine. On April 17th, narcotic this year, narcotic investigation led to a traffic stop, seizure of 126,000 US currency, one arrest and a seizure. I was expressing to city manager Esparza, this case generated ICE federal agents out of Makati. We were able to locate the Ford Ranger, the pickup, and we made a stop in Falfurrias. We do have an agreement with Brooks County Sheriff Benny Martinez, and I still remember it was a Sunday morning, about noon, and it took the narcotic guys a little bit to find but behind the seat there was a well built compartment, and in that compartment was 126,000 in U.S. currency. Now that case in itself, the agents arrived there and took the gentleman, took the monies, and we are gonna dag on that currency. When the case is done and over with, that paperwork for dagging has already been submitted to the feds, and what they do is they calculate who assisted and how many hours, manpower, and they have their own scale as to how much one gets out of that money. So we're still waiting for that to happen. On April 27th, narcotic investigation led to a traffic stop of 7.9 ounces of marijuana and one arrest. September 9th, 2018, narcotic investigation led to a search of a residence in Jim Wells County, resulting in the seizure of 4.6 ounces of marijuana, 111 grams of marijuana wax, and 2,620 in U.S. currency, along with one arrest. On May 10th, 2018, narcotic search warrant in the city of Alice led to one arrest and the seizure of 29.6 grams of cocaine. May 22nd, 2018, narcotic warrant in the city of Alice led to a citation for possession of drug paraphernalia. On June 5th, 2018, narcotic search warrant in the city of Alice led to one arrest for 1.5 grams of rock cocaine. June 15, 2018, narcotic search warrant in the city of Alice, one arrest for 1.7 grams of cocaine. June 23, 2018, search warrant in Jim Wells County led to one arrest for 8.8 ounces of synthetic marijuana. Alongside Jim Wells County, we work hand in hand with Jim Wells County, Brooks, and Duval County. June 24, 2018, narcotic investigation led to one arrest for 200 kilos of marijuana and 2.3 kilos of cocaine, as well as a seizure of a truck trailer. And that was a case with on June 26, 2018, narcotic search warrant in Brooks County led to two arrests, 9.7 ounces of marijuana on June 27, 2018, search warrant in Brooks County led to two arrests, 8.6 ounces of 0.5 ounces of marijuana, 5 ounces of marijuana, also one vehicle was again, having done the interlocal agreement with interlocal agencies, they come into play. Believe it or not, dope comes from here, as well as dope from here goes somewhere else, they come over here, it's just a mere fact of getting your information together and either stop or a warrant or a search warrant to try to prevent the dope And then you got that's the totals there. That's the totals there. Of the cases that I just expressed. Did you want me to read all that? Mayor, want me to read all that?
I don't think that's necessary. I think we're good.
Any questions, Mayor, Council?
Council, any questions?
Chief, you had mentioned the 126,000.
Yes.
And kind of let them know the process of how, when does that money, the forfeiture funds come in? You know, sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow. So like, where is that? And
It all depends on when you get involved with the federal system. Usually it's a long-term investigation. And this might be the first stop they made, and they then just keep piling the cases or until they find or until they get the main target of the operation. And I haven't checked with the guys to see if I know for a fact that we haven't gotten a check yet, so I know that it hasn't gone through. We do as soon as we did this case. That week we do a what you call a DAG, and that DAG is a bunch of questions and manpower and hours, and like I said, we send it in by the computer, and whenever the case is done and over with, then they fall back, and all the seizures that did with this case, including the 126, there might be houses, there might be cars. There's a chance that we can DAG on that, and then we get a lump sum of whatever they think a percentage should be for us.
the case has to be closed and finalized.
It has to be disposed.
So there's a long time frame on some of them.
Sometimes you're talking, 6 months to a year. It all depends, who the target is and if they can nab them. And they use these cases to just pile them on someone, whoever the target is. And the feds usually don't elaborate as to what they're doing. They just call for help. And I remember I myself, Hastings and David and Juarez, we were out there on Sundays. We were trying to cover 281 and 77, and we were just, the long shot was there, and we is to locate the vehicle, and we did. And if you ever been in Driscoll, if you stop there at the light in Driscoll, which are 665 and 77, I mean, there's, I don't know how many cars pass in an hour, there's, and after a while, all the cars look alike, You just gotta be alert and ready to catch it.
Thank you.
Council, any questions?
So these 16, 17 arrests do not actually fall into the previous number of arrests that you had stated of the 90
No,
something or 270 something. Those are different.
no, because if we're working a case with Jim Wells, of course that goes in there, and then Duval and Brooks.
Okay.
If we help Brooks, then everything we just do. If we're going to be the initial officers that are taking the case, that's fine. We'll do the report, but everything stays over there since it occurred in Brooks County. Vice versa, the same thing over here in Duval County. If we do something in Duval County, reports are made and it's turned into them. They generate their case number, and we generate a supplement report, and we go from there.
Chief, thank you. This is very, very easy and good to read. And good job on all 443 pounds of marijuana off the streets. That's awesome. I would like to see it. The case is closed, which is beyond y'all's control. It's at DA's office and, at those offices for it to be faster.
And what goes on also is most of the times the narcotics that is confiscated in our, and it's got to be on them too, is it's sent to the DPS lab, and they're, of course, we're not the only agency that sends them narcotics or anything to analyze, so we're on their time. They're pretty prompt on it, but sometimes it might take 6 months, a year to even get. And once all the report is get, then we Dropbox it to the DA's office or to the county attorney. It all depends when they want to have all the reports in at one time. That way, they won't be missing any when requested by the defense attorney.
Now, when they show street value, when they show street value, is there any value that comes back to the city on these busts? Is there any money? Is there anything
No.
there, or the only thing is that, like, when it's cash itself, when it's currency?
Only cash. Okay, what we do, once a case is disposed of here at the D's office, the county attorney's office, and you pile it off on the corner of your evidence locker, let's say, then at a certain amount we get a destruction order from the district judge, and then we usually dispose of our dope in San Juan. They have DPS has a location over there, unannounced to anyone, and they just tell us, meet us here, meet us there at this time. And at that moment, you go over there, and you're thinking that you're going to be the only one that's going to be burning marijuana or cocaine, and lo and behold, there's 18-wheelers there ready to unload. So that's how we come about. When it's marijuana stuff, that's just the value, street value of it. We don't get no money off of it.
No.
Very good. And I do have to say, it's nice seeing the activity of officers. We see more and more activity, and that's good to see. I like that.
On a given day, Mayor, now that we put out 6 new officers on a given night, I want to say Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there could be 9 to 10 officers working, and you could see the units
You can
out
see
there.
it. Yeah.
And again, I praise the officers and the newcomers who are, the seasoned officers are still, it's like we're all one person. We just got to work with each other and make things happen the correct way.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
The next one is the cases that are sent to CID, and we started in April. We had, it says here, the report computer generated is we had 10 assaults, bodily injuries, 27 thefts. That could include I know sometimes HEB, believe it or not, that they bring in a team of undercover choppers, you can call it, and any given day they're here, they can pop 3 or 4 people in one day, and then you got Walmart at the other corner over there. They come in and they can pop 2 or 3 a day, so those are thefts that generates from those 2 stores basically. Burglary of vehicles, in April we had 11, and burglary habitations we had 12. If you go down the line, 1 here, 1 there, criminal trespass, and it goes on and on. And in June, okay, also in April, there was 26 city warrants served, which means the warrant officer serving warrants, and or a patrol officer that makes a stop and ends up that the person has a warrant, so they come in. Either they come in and or if they have the money to pay the ticket, they do so, and if they don't, well, they go to jail. Also, what I've seen a spike on, and I'm seeing everyone, but I know is the DWIs are going up, and we had 8 in April. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I know It was last month, sometime Saturday. We got inundated with troopers, which is they'll welcome here every day if they want to, and they're out there as well. And so you get our 10 units, let's say, that are working on Friday and Saturday, and then you get 2 or 3 other troopers. So you're gonna see units all over, and these troopers, I've seen them on Hill Street, down Texas, or they're within the city sometimes. In May, the criminal mischiefs, we had 22 criminal mischiefs in May. We had, again, thefts, 26. And then the burglaries of a habitation, 12, and burglaries of vehicle, 22. It went up in May for whatever reason. It could be kids are out of school, they're roaming, and we just, that's not an excuse, but it could be that. Reason. And in May, there was 9 city warrants, and again the DWIs in May were 11. So shows that they're out there tracking down drunk drivers, I guess. In June 2018, burglary of vehicles 15. There was 33 thefts, criminal mischiefs 14, burglary habitations I had 16, and assault bodily injury we had 18 of those calls. And in June, the city warrants, they served 20 warrants, 11 county warrants, and the assaults bodily injury were 8, and all the rest are under 5 or 2.
So, Chief, does your warrant officer go into Jim Wells and Duval and Jim Hogg and B County?
Yes. Whenever he goes out of the city, he contacts Jim Wells County, for example, and just alerts him, hey, I'm going to be in Rancho Alegre, whatever street, and likewise, if he goes to Duval County, he lets either the city, if it's going to be in the city, and or the county, that he's in the area. And there's times, you ask for help, they'll send somebody with you, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Sergeant Lerma is familiar with San Diego. He might be, and if not, it's best to have guidance from someone there to go directly to your source.
Chief, I'm always interested in patterns and profiles. I can understand you might not have this at your fingertips, but if you could get the information, I'd appreciate it. The median age, when you're looking at the burglaries of habitats, what is the median age of those involved in that? And how many of them are repeat, I'll even use the term career offenders?
Here about 2-3 weeks ago, we had a rash of burglaries over here on the southwest corner of town, and we had burglaries. I mean, you can see we have a map where you can put where your activity is, and yes, the average right now is between 25 and about 33. And yes, they're your repeaters. And you can see when these individuals are incarcerated in the county jail, we'll go into your log and they're there, you're going to see my picture there, whatever. And then you don't see them there no more. And then activity starts again. There's a case right now, and if the guy's watching, we're looking for you. There's a house over here on South Johnson that got hit, and today our investigator got the search warrant for him. We have an arrest warrant, and the thing is that it's a habitual. He was just in jail. He's let out because he can bond out, and they're at it again. So it's the system. I know our guys are doing their job, and like I said, anytime that anyone gets arrested, they're bound to get bonded. They can be bonded out, and some do. They're out. And they get back to the same thing. But for the most part, I'm very happy how our operation is going with Patrol Division, the narcotic guys, and CID. I know we moved one guy to CID just recently, and there's one more coming here pretty soon.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
And if you'll tell Mr. Jaramillo, thank you for the report as well. Very nice and easy to read and what we need. Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Keep up.
The next.
Keep up the work.
Well, yes.
Thank you.
I'm trying.
He's going to say he's presenting the next one, so he's going to stay there.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
You can leave. You can
Walk off and walk back.
I was like,
A grand reentry.
sorry about that, Chief. Agenda item number 12, consider and act upon authorizing the city manager to enter into a mutual agreement between the City of Alice and the Alice Independent School District in regards to having an Alice police officer act as school resource officer on AISD campuses and will work with administration, teachers, and students.
Mayor, Police Chief Rex Ramon is going to present this. We're trying to have a good working relationship with the school district, and I'll let Chief talk about our meeting we had and what we plan on doing.
On Friday, August the 17th, on or about 1:30 in the afternoon, myself, CM Esparza, and Officer Valadez, and Superintendent, we met with Superintendent Carl Scarborough, and Willie Reese, who's he's operations with the school district. And I know that I've been approached about trying to have an officer work hand in hand with the school district. And honestly, I didn't know what the perception was going to be upon arriving there. We sat down and you know, it's like Mr. Esparza said, I think that, you know, of course, Mr. Carl is just coming into town. We work really well with Willie Reese. I think that our relationship is there, very strong. And we pitched the thing of putting either a liaison or a SRO to work with the students as far as bullying, anything having that is affecting right now. I mean, one of the things that we see, that I see a lot coming in through our computers is nationwide is suicides and stuff like that. So we went up there and we pitched some numbers, and they accepted it, which means that what we're here to do is we're gonna get with the school district here pretty quick already, and we need to get the cost of an officer and the training of this officer, and the school district pay half, where it be, you know, if he's got to go to a training in wherever he has to go, we pay half, they pay half, or we pay and then they reimburse us. That is something that I need to get with the finance about, and they accept it. They
Mr. Scarborough, yeah. When we went, we were talking about it. We were looking at, let's just say, a $60,000 cost, total cost, or in and around 60 with total benefits. And he's like, if I need to find $30,000 in a budget to help with this, I'll find it. And so he's very interested in having the presence in the schools. He wants, he knows that it can have a long-term effect for us. It's the same thing. We're helping the schools, but in you know, the turnaround is the long-term effect of our community is better students, better citizens, and so we can help curb problems at the early level, and also help some of the issues with the social media bullying that happens. That this person will be able to communicate a lot more with the students, and it can be coming from a police officer that's trained. And so it was a good reception with him, and so that's why we were bringing it forward to you guys, you know, to enter into a mutual agreement. I think, you know, it's going to be nothing but good by having having one of our police officers around the schools.
I agree completely. Council, before I speak, I'll entertain anything from you guys. Mr. Molina, anything? Mr.
No.
Crisp?
I think it's a great thing.
Ms. Carrasco?
I'm just excited to see this, that we're investing in our children, and I know that we used to have the DARE program and those things, and I know that cross guards, and so I'm excited to see the school district and us working together.
And, you know, there for a while, they didn't have a superintendent because they were in search of one. So, you know, I was talking directly with Willie, and although he said, you know, hold back, you know, let's hire someone first, and it's not something that we just thought of yesterday and let's do it today, you know. You know, we went and they accepted us very well. I'm real pleased with the outcome, and I think that, you know, when the MOU is ready and done with, it's going to be a win-win situation for everyone.
It's done.
It's done, then.
It's in front of council tonight.
Chief, that's,
Very good.
yeah, that's a very good thing. I'm super excited because, you know, we went together to, you know, when we had all the outbursts, and this was very important to me that we work together with the school, because times like this, we don't say, oh, that's the school's problem, because the school is Alice, and they are our kids. And, you know, this was very, very important to me, and I'm glad we were able to iron out and get the new superintendent to completely jump on board. And it was kind of rough because we were in between and they were in between, so I think there was maybe fear on both sides, which fear was it was a weird, anyway. I'm super excited to see this. Now, are we going to have one or two? When I spoke to Dr. Scarborough, he mentioned two, possibly? No?
What it is that the school district, at the first day, which was last week, hired 2 off-duty officers that go in at, if I'm not mistaken, they go in at 8 to 4, whatever time the school's in session. And these 2 officers are at the high school, and of course, we're there for presence, and if anything out of the ordinary that we need to step in, we do so. The way it works is if we see that something's going wrong, we come in, but then if it's an issue that the school district needs to handle with the student, then we hand over.
Right.
Now, if it's something that for example, assault, bodily injury, fight, whatever, we take them and we do everything that we bring them over. If they're juveniles, we call it juvenile probation office, and if they're adults, we process them and then they go to county jail. This SRO, or the liaison officer, is another one that the school district is going to pay half and half with us, with the city, and they, for example, whoever is chosen, and we say, Rex, go to William Adams today. We have maybe the counselor has a student there that has problems, and you know, we direct them. If this person needs a counselor of some sort, then we try to get CPS involved. We try to, you know, that's and again, there's other, you know, like I said, once you put that officer there, there's going to be some training as far as bullying and things that this officer needs to learn, and then we implement. It usually starts in the 5th and 6th grade. Again, if they need a 3rd officer at the high school, then they will tell them, or really, I don't know who's going to be in charge of this officer. They go and they report to wherever they are needed.
Okay, good. So that's in addition to the 2 off-duty. So that's awesome. So we'll have 3 pretty much. Yes. Oh, that's great. That's so good. Okay, council, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a mutual agreement between the City of Alice and the Alice Independent School District in regards to having an Alice police officer act as a school resource officer on AISD campuses, and will work with administration, teachers, and students.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Agenda item number 13, consider and act upon authorizing city manager to enter into an interlocal lease agreement between the City of Alice and Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service for a portion of the property known as Alice Training Center located at 100 South Stadium Drive, Alice, Texas.
Mayor, Texas AgriLife had approached needing some office space. They have office space at the county right now, and they added a person. And so they were looking for, this is an office to be able to, they're not there all the time. They're there and they have equipment for presentations and things of that sort. And I offered some office space up at the third floor. However, they do have easels and projectors and things that they take, and it was kind of cumbersome. And then the conversation came up with our fire chief. She was out there doing training for some of our firefighters. And he said, you know, his office isn't used very much, and so we offered some space that was Patrick's before, and talked to our city attorney and said we can certainly enter in an interlocal lease agreement. There's an exchange of services as well. She trains firefighters for their wellness volunteers, and I think she trains some of the police officers on some nutrition and things of that sort. She's also going to be working on us for Channel 1300. We had put a hold on it until we got the new equipment. Now we're ready. Of course, the budget and everything we're doing, we put a second hold on it, but we'll be ready to get some filming of that done. So we're recommending to enter into a local agreement with Texas AgriLife.
Okay.
We also do have some provisions in here, since it is a training center. If we did need it for emergencies, or, you know, there's restricted access, we could, you know, there won't be any issue with you know, her being in that office or showing up when we have an emergency. So that's all understood. So there won't be any issues moving forward on that.
Okay, council, any questions? Ms. Carrasco? No. Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp?
Nope.
Mr. Molina? Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move for authorizing the city manager to enter into an interlocal lease agreement between the City of Alice and Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service for a portion of the property known as the Alice Training Center on Stadium Drive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 14, hear a presentation from the Alice Fire Department regarding statistics for quarterly calls for service.
Mayor, Interim Fire Chief Patrick Thomas is going to present his quarterly report to us. In your packet, though, if you notice, we have the first quarter's report also, but he's going to go over the second quarter with statistics.
Good evening, Mayor Council. What I just handed out to you was a pretty vital part of the information that was in your packets that I forgot to put in there, so I apologize for that. What these are, the handout that I handed out to you is the categories that you'll see on your graphs. The types of incidents that we respond to, these are set by the National Fire Incident Reporting System at a national level. That's not something that we choose to categorize our fires at. So they're preset. So the categories are that's how we develop those categories, and they're entered by a series of numbers. So you'll see some of those numbers in some of these reports. So the first report that you have is a general overview of the types of fires that we respond to. As the city manager says, this is for the city manager says, this is for the so total fires was 148. Total fires was 148. Total fires was 148. You can see the fires were 40 fires were our two main categories are two fires and hazardous fires. Hazardous could be hazmat spills, the second report that you have. I kind of breeze through because I know you have really busy.
These are the zones.
So we have the city broken down into different zones, and that's how we know what neighborhoods are having the most fires, or the types of fires that we have. So that second report is that it's a breakdown by zone, of where the fires are, and it includes portions of where we do respond to portions of the county, and so we have those broken down as well. On the report, you'll also see that there's some other districts that we respond to. Those are primarily mutual calls. So for instance, there's 2 calls for Bevels, 2 calls for Caldwell Woods County, some for New County, some for Orange Grove. In times of need, when they need some help, I'll get into that a little bit further in a little bit as far as the numbers of how many times we've gone and how many times they've come to help us. Your next report is just a breakdown by the zone of the types of fires that are happening in each one of those zones. And you guys can review this at your pleasure and see the types of fires that are happening in different areas and kind of reference it with the map so you can see the neighborhoods that are where all these different types of fires are happening. And please stop me any time if you have a question about one of the reports. I know I'm kind of breezing through these. So the next report that I have for you is just general statistics about the department. Total EMS calls and total fire calls for the quarter. EMS calls were 11, and those primarily are lift assists or times where we needed to go help EMS either with CPR or a cardiac call or something that they needed assistance with. That's what those calls are. We don't typically handle EMS calls primarily. The fire calls are 137 calls. Those are strictly the fire calls, which you saw the breakdown earlier. Mutual aid calls, for this quarter, we gave 13 times we were requested for mutual aid, and 2 times we received mutual aid. So there was 2 times that we needed somebody else, another department, to come in and help us. Overlapping calls, this is the number of times that we've had multiple calls at the same time. We're different incidents on different parts of town, and they were happening simultaneously, so we had to divide our crews up and send them to different calls. And that happened 24 times this quarter, and it was 16% of the time. And then the other number that I wanted to highlight for you guys was the turnout time. This is the amount of time it takes from when we receive the call to the time that our fire trucks are actually on the road responding to the fire. Not how long it takes to get to the fire, but how long it takes for them to get to where they start responding to the fire. And that was 1 minute and 7 seconds. So they're pretty fast to get out of the station, and that's an average. And then the average time on scene for this quarter was 45 minutes and 40 seconds. That was an average of how long they spent dealing with whichever incident it was. And then your other report that you have next is just a breakdown. And thankfully, and hopefully it stays this way, we've had 0 deaths and 0 injuries this year, and we hope that it stays that way. We try our best to do what we can to prevent fire. You guys have seen some of our reports in the past where we've tried to get as creative as possible to try to help educate the public, educate the kids in the schools, and we've got some programs that we want to bring to you in the future. We're hoping to be able to add on to that and try to lower these numbers and get these numbers even lower than what they are. Your last report is a 10-year bar graph that kind of shows you where we were at in 2008 and where we're at in 2018. And just for clarification, 2018 number, that's a really low number, but that's only the second quarter number. So we've still got 2 more quarters that we've got to add to that. But we're on trend to be able to stay under the amount of calls that we had in 2008 and 2009. If you notice, 2008 was our busiest year where we had over 1,000 calls. We hope that we don't have to do that again, because anytime we have calls like that, it means money. It means tires and fuel and foam and manpower and things like that. So the less calls that we have, the less it impacts our budgets. So I'll open the floor for any questions if you have any questions at this time.
Okay, Council, Ms. Carrasco? Mr. Burke?
Yes, Chief, just for clarification purposes, informational purposes, you have the breakdown, I think 137 fires. Is there a way to break that down even further? And I don't know the codes or, like you would, but those that resulted in significant loss of property. Can I phrase it that way? Is there a way to break that down further?
There possibly is. I would need to do a little bit more research. So one of the things is we just moved over to a new software. So the software, the numbers that it spits out, so I'm still trying to figure that stuff out. But I'm pretty confident that there is a way we can pull that number, and I can do a little bit of research and get back to you on that.
When you use the, you made the statement 45 minutes on a call.
That's correct.
Was that for every call on average, or, okay, so
I
what
believe so.
The question I'm getting at, for the major ones, what would be the average time spent on one of those calls?
I don't know. I can try to see if maybe we can classify maybe a certain group of calls and see if they'll give me an average of that. Like I said, I'm still trying to play with this software to try to figure out what kind of numbers or what
If
kind of
you
graphs
can.
they could give me. But yes, most definitely, if that's something that we want to, I can definitely look at that and try to spit some of those numbers out of that software.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Crisp?
I was just going over these numbers real quick. So it seems like in the last quarter, 55 of these distress calls that we had actually took place outside of the city limits.
Okay.
Is that
55. Which graph or which?
I'm starting in Bimbolt, moving down, and I mean, I'm not. You don't have to be exact, but
Okay.
it's a little over a third. It seems like, and 13 of those were mutual aid. We're in those. Our mutual aid agreements are with who? We have Clayburgh, Duval, Brooks.
Mutual aid agreements we have with every department that surrounds us. So we're in a 13-county council of governments, and we have agreements with all of those different departments in all the different counties. So typically our mutual aid calls are neighboring departments,
Right.
but every once in a while, if you'll see there's some on there, we're down in Brooks County. I think there's one in here for Kennedy County, and those were major incidents where you're talking probably 5,000-6,000 acre fires. Typically, they're grass fires that we respond to for our mutual aid calls. Every once in a while, we'll get called for a major fire. Like I think in this report, it's in this report. You saw the big hotel fire they had in Belfries.
Right.
That's one of the calls that's on here. That's probably the Brooks County call. So. We have mutual aid agreements with almost every department. Typically, it's the neighboring ones that are close by, like Bembolt, San Diego, Orange Grove, that border our response zone. That's typically our mutual aid areas that we typically do. But every once in a while, there'll be one that's further out.
Now, when we taking that into consideration, when we start averaging out average response time for Station 1, Station 2, having to travel over there, does that actually kill a response
It
time?
does.
Do you
It does
understand what
because
I'm
it's all
asking here?
figured in the same. They're not looking at average response times for a specific zone. They're not looking at average response times in general. So yeah, it does affect our average.
Yeah, because if we drive 45 minutes to get to Brooks or something like that,
It's gonna really
that
throw our
makes,
average
that
up.
makes our number shoot up, where an 8-minute response time from Station 1 is not a great thing to have, but when you think about that, Station 1 is probably the one that's traveling
All the
from
way
here
out
to
there.
Kingsville or from here to Brooks County or something like that. So, it'd be nice to be able to figure out a way to show this and say, hey, within our city and our citizens that we're taking care of, we can get there in 2 minutes, we get there in 3 minutes, we get there in 4 minutes. But, hey, I mean, obviously,
Right.
8 minutes with the fire, that's a world of time.
Doubles in size every minute. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a world of time for residents. So, I'd like to see, something if possible.
Specific to
Figuring
the
out your
city.
software, I understand that you're fighting the curve here, but, that might say something along the lines of saying, hey, in town, this is what we pull off for our citizens.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I think that'd be a great thing for them to know as well, so.
I think so. I agree, and we'll definitely look into that.
Thank you, Mr. Crisp. Mr. Molina?
No.
Okay. Absolutely.
Chief, false alarms, are they becoming more of a problem, more of an issue? Or is it declining? Is it
No, it's
leveling off?
holding steady. I haven't seen it go up or down, to be honest with you. It's pretty much stayed the same. That's on average, those are false calls. And a lot of times that's somebody hit the button on accident, somebody. So one thing that I have noticed is that there are a lot more types of devices out there other than just your general fire alarms that would activate us. There's like the Canary devices that all the first responders receive have an alarm or a fire version or fire portion to that. So there's a lot more devices, but I really haven't seen a solid increase in that type of false alarms.
Good.
Real quick, this is going to sound like a silly question, but in today's, electronic and technical world, have we seen any Alexa And I'm not kidding, because this is a big deal. This is going on different places. Have we seen any of those where Alexa has called the fire department or called 911 unwarranted?
I wouldn't know because that would go into our dispatch center.
Okay.
So by the time we get the call, we don't know how it was received.
Okay.
That would be a Chief Ramon or
Yeah, because
Lieutenant Barrera
that
question.
has been brought up as an issue and so
I do know they have all kinds of new features that
Oh, yeah.
they can get now. There's text 911 now. There's all kinds of different deals, but that's really a question for the communications center. By the time we get the call, we just know.
Just get out
We're
there.
just told this is the call and this is where it's at. They don't really tell us how they received the call.
Very good. Okay.
Council, any other questions? Patrick, so when we see Jim Wells County, JW 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are literally like county fires, right? That are
That's
outside
correct.
the city
And
limits.
included in that is section 12. If you look at your map,
Okay.
012 is actually the Rancho Alegre area.
Okay.
I didn't set up these zones. These zones were already set up before me, so I don't know why the Rancho Alegre area didn't receive a Jim Wells number. It's just a regular number like the city, but that entire zone is also county.
Okay, so in those, is there mutual or no? It's just you guys going out there to fight these fires?
For the most part, yes. It's just us going out there. Now, if it's a major call, as we would with any call in the city, if we need to call for mutual aid, we will do so. But for the most part, we're the primary response agency.
So you would say like,
And the secondary would be, depending on where it is, could be the Bembo Fire Department would be.
Typically, it's usually Bembo and San Diego because of their proximity to us. They're a little closer. But if it's over on the north side, we may even reach out to Orange Grove. On the east side, we would reach out to Agua Dulce Fire Department.
but typically 98% it's all Alice Fire Department.
I would say so because if you look at the number of times we received mutual aid, that number was included in all those, and it was only 2 times this last quarter. So yeah.
Okay,
That's about 30% of the, of this quarter's fires.
30%, correct?
It's been
We're
higher
in the
in
county,
recent
correct.
quarters, and I need to look at quarter 1, but it is a big percentage of our fire department.
It pretty much averages about 30 to 40%.
Pretty much consistently every year?
Consistently, yeah, consistently every year.
Ballpark number, how much?
Money?
Just asking money.
Money, that,
Well, $600,000.
Accounts for Jim Wells County fires.
correct.
Personnel costs.
Only.
Personnel only, not
That's not including
equipment.
equipment or
Yeah.
things that might break.
What was that number again?
600,000.
600,000. 600,000 personnel,
That's-
just making sure I'm correct.
Yeah, we
Just
look
general-
at
Jim
general
Wells
numbers.
County fires, right? Okay. Thank you. Yep,
Right.
that's a big amount.
Any more questions?
Nope. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Agenda item number 15, consider and act upon authorization of city manager to enter into a service agreement with Tyler Technologies for hosting network servers for financial, municipal court, and utility billing applications.
Mayor, this is kind of one of the last things we've been working on throughout the summer as far as integrating, more technology, cloud-based, and bringing us up to speed with where we need to be. And Jim and I have been working, spent a lot of hours working on this particular issue. And he's going to give it a little presentation y'all have in your binder, the ongoing cost. And so we're looking at going ahead and sending our utility billing, our financial module, personnel module, codes and inspections to the cloud. Right now, we're using Springbrook for those. Municipal court is with Encode, and Encode is kind of the premier company. They tend to be more expensive, but we've been able to work with them on the cloud-based portion of it, and we're actually going to, in a way, going cloud is going to be a cost saving, and he'll do this presentation, and I'll fill in on a couple of the spots.
Okay, so our current servers.
He's the guy you never see, he's always back there.
Yeah,
This is Jim
but I
Hicks,
see
our
you all.
IT man.
I don't want to have to see him. Something's wrong.
So our current servers are on site, and annually we're paying Springbrook $54,000, Encode Court $11,293, total $65,000. We also had to change our servers this last December, so we got a A box, Nutanix box was about $65,000, and we put those virtual servers on there. But ultimately, we want to get into the cloud because that's the place that things are safer, work more efficiently, and all that can work from anywhere. So one option is to go with Rackspace hosting our servers. But actually, that may not be an option because we talked to Springbrook and they don't like that. They don't want us to put their stuff in the cloud unless it's their own cloud. So that's really not an option on that.
But it shows you just the cost of if we were to be able to do it.
Yeah. And so two other options is go with Springbrook for our in the cloud, in their cloud, and then Encode, put the Encode Court in their cloud, and that total is about $100,000 a year, and a one-time cost of about $58,000 to convert everything and get that project done. But if we go hosted totally by Encode, if we switch over our financial, utility billing, codes, inspections, all that stuff over to Encode and go to the cloud with them, then the total annual cost of the financial side is $67,000, the Encode Court $14,000, so the yearly is $81,598, and then a one-time project cost to get everything converted over, which is kind of a big deal, kind of a big project. We'd probably want to schedule it like in April or so when finance has some time to be able to contribute to that, and then that would be people coming down and training us and all that stuff.
It's a long time frame. The last time that we did a software change was in 2006, I believe.
I think we got Springbrook in 2003.
2003.
But we did
okay.
have an upgrade in 2010 or 11.
Yeah, a smaller upgrade. Yeah,
But it was
like
still
the
with
big one.
Springbrook, so
Springbrook is, and it seems from out there that we're one of the last few municipalities that are still with them. Encode has kind of taken over, and they're a very good software company, and they offer a lot of different tracking mechanisms also that I know Jim in finance have talked about. But one of the things is when you look at the cost of what we have by housing our server in-house, we've got a $65,000 cost right now, but when you add what was upgraded last year of $65,000, that's $130,000 of what it cost to house it in-house. Now that server that we bought, we're going to repurpose it. It's not going to go to waste. The police department has 6 different servers.
Yeah.
Very different than the municipal government side that we're working on. That server that was bought will be repurposed over there. Probably looking at doing something cloud-based with the police department. And when Jim and I were talking today, that's probably like 3 to 5 years down the road, maybe 4 to 5, depending on the need. But they work a little differently because there's grants that we get for a lot of those items over there. So it's just a different mechanism, a different machine. They use a lot of bandwidth also because of the videos, so it's very different. But that machine that was bought will be repurposed. But if you compare the cost of the cloud-based cost of $81,000 versus a 65, where it's 65 is going to be with having to have upgrades and having to buy servers. It's really not a bad deal to go cloud-based already and move all our other modules over to Encode.
And there is kind of a small window that you can do it. We have to kind of get the project
You have to
rolling.
get started early. There's a lot of work that gets done when to do the transfer over, and so the end of the year is when you're working on audit. So they're real busy with that, but there's a lot of background work that your company can do to get started. And so we say a little bit, Vanessa and Roland, the downtime is like April or so, with not necessarily downtime, but you have more free time to focus on that, and that's when the integration happens. And so there's, especially with utility billing, you may have to run the dual systems for a month or so. Part of the one-time cost is, and it works almost like a retainer, but it's that one-time cost where they build from there. And when they come down and they do the installation and they train, that's when they start eating away that one-time cost. So it's not always 100% used, but it's a very big deal to do. And this is a time when we need to do it if we're considering that. Not only we're going to go cloud-based, but we'll have a very good software system that's going to be very user-friendly and accessible to the employees. And also, there's a module for, elected officials and non kind of power users. There's apps that you can access the software also. And there's not a charge for that. They usually charge user fees. But if it's non-essential or non-power user, then it's more of a limited scale, but certainly be able to see and print and those kind of things.
And also that employee portal that you'll be able to go in and check your pay and stuff like that.
Council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
No.
Mr. Crisp? Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Carrasco? No. Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a service agreement with Tyler Technologies for hosting network services for financial, municipal court, and utility billing applications.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, Mr. Jim.
Thank you very much.
Jim?
Item number 16, consider and act upon establishing a policy of the City of Alice establishing the insurance premiums for affiliated agencies, appointed positions, and elected officials for insurance plan year fiscal year 2019 at the fully funded, fully insured premium set by the City Council.
Mayor, and this is a same agenda item that was last meeting. Last meeting was just specifically for retirees. And this just sets the rate to be the fully funded rate, not the discounted rate that we kind of give our employees a benefit on for the affiliated agencies and appointed positions, anybody that's not necessarily an employee that can be on the insurance plan. And so we're making it the fully funded rate so we don't have to do this every year. It's just set as we're partially self-funded. We can be set to say whatever the fully funded rate is, what everybody else pays. They don't get the benefit of what the employees get as far as a reduced, we can reduce the rate for employees like we did this year.
Correct. Okay. Ms. Carrasco, any questions? Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp?
Nope.
Mr. Molina?
Nope.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, make a motion to establish a policy of the City of Alice establishing the insurance premiums for affiliated agencies, appointed positions, and elected officials for insurance plan fiscal year 2019 at the fully funded, fully insured premium set by the City Council.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 17, consider and act upon updating or procuring a new feasibility study on an amphitheater and the possibility of utilizing hotel occupancy tax funds.
Mayor, Councilwoman Carrasco had asked this to be on the agenda. We included the feasibility study that was done in 2012 for the amphitheater out at the multi-use area, so wanted to hand it over to Councilwoman Carrasco for some further discussion on it.
Okay. Ms. Carrasco?
I had asked to have this placed on the agenda because I felt there was something that we could have our city manager look into and possibly do a feasibility study to see if this is something possible. This would, in my opinion, help and move forward our city with something different, quality of life, and also where we could host different festivities or activities for our city. But this is right now just the beginning, it's a feasibility study to do our due diligence and see what the possibilities are out there and make sure we can proceed and move forward with something to present to council for something in the future. Open up.
Okay. Mr. Molina, any questions?
I have no comments.
Mr. Crisp?
What does one of these studies roughly run? Is there any idea of something like that?
Probably be all across the board. This study was part of a bigger study.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, something like this, we could be looking, depending on how we be up to the 10,000 rate sometimes. Something we could do is actually try to get an idea from the an engineering firm or professional services firm who would be able to do that. We could also look at using this one and get it updated, but we could come back certainly with an idea of cost. Unless if you guys are interested in moving forward, then maybe it would be you could set a limit on the cost that you would want to see.
There is a company out, I believe it was out of Dallas, that has, and some of the things that I was looking into was perhaps like one of those coverings that like fabric, I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And
The canvas or.
and they would
else.
they could give you an idea of pricing and what they charge. They charge per square, is it square meter? I can't remember, but they do have that where you could meet with them, and that's just one small portion.
Right.
It's much larger. We have to area, and.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily
And-
talking about the facility itself. I'm talking just the study
That's
itself.
a step we're in.
Because, I mean, I know this study is old, but when you start looking at things like the $1.2 million one that they built at College Station, you gotta think that's a college town. You know, their total revenues were $40,000 over the course of a year. So it's hard to say that there's gonna be a lot of return. It's not something that I haven't talked about. We've all talked about the idea of doing something like this out there. I just would like to get an idea of how much this portion of it is going to cost us, just to see if it's even worth doing. You know what I mean?
A feasibility study also has, it depends on how we structure it or how they look into it, but it can give you financial impact. It just different areas. A feasibility study is doing your due diligence.
Right. Agreed.
But sometimes they're like 10,000, and I've
Yeah.
seen some go up to 30, and
So what's the price for the study?
we don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't know yet.
I think
Could we put a limit? I mean, I don't know.
I think I'd like to see if we can get, I know it's hard to say, but like RFP, RFQ, do something to get an idea of where just this portion is going to put us. And, because they're going to kick back the idea, I think that'd be a great facility for maybe a 3,000 person amphitheater or 2,000, and here's, this is the study I would recommend. And before we start just engaging these guys and throwing dollar bills at them,
Yeah.
let's see what the ideas that they throw back at us. I think that would be a really good first step in order to try to pull something like this off, and it doesn't cost us a dime yet.
Was this the last one they did?
Yeah, 2012, right?
That was in 2012, so it's really,
Horrible.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Corpus
That-
Christi and College Station.
Yeah.
yeah,
Cole
it's-
Park.
Stations
Cole-
are like crazy.
this is not a good.
Apples and
We would
Yeah.
need to do
pineapples.
It's
something.
included
to-
'cause
Apologize,
it's what we had.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this feasibility study that was presented it's that whole idea, kind of trying to present you with the Mercedes instead of
Yeah.
Pinto or something from the 70s. You know what I mean? So it's one of those deals where it's hard to say when you have a college town versus Alice. You have a destination town like Corpus Christi versus Alice. So I think Cynthia's on the right track of getting a feasibility study, but I think the first step is to find out what this is going to run us. You know what I mean? So that we can make sure that we're heading down the right road.
And not only get a feasibility study that we want something that's going to be true to
Yeah,
Alice.
exactly.
True to Alice.
Like this is not.
We don't want someone to fluff or do, so when we engage with whoever we're going to meet with, we want a true study that compares a similar city with.
If you want to put out, if you want to put out an RFQ for that, we can gather some of these firms and that'll kind of get a process started, and there's no commitment to.
I think that's a good
It's,
idea.
yeah, right now it's just very general and
Right,
open,
right.
so if we can narrow it down, we can say, this is what we're looking for, and.
Because I've always said that we do have an amphitheater, kind of. At the old Fiesta Bandana, because it was built.
Right there.
Those of us who went over there back in the day, the music was great. It was built for that. and that might be an option to look at this company or whatever and say, hey, what's an option with this? It's already concrete, already established. And instead of throwing $10,000 into just a study, we could throw $10,000 into what we already have, kind of looking at the assets we currently have and seeing, because money was spent on that years and years ago. I know it's old, but it's very,
It's
very.
in the middle of town, too.
It functions.
Centrally located.
It functions very, very well. It really does. Those of you who do remember the music, the way it sounded, it was perfect. And it didn't really disturb the peace.
And that might be it. Maybe it's not necessarily a feasibility study for that
you,
position,
yeah.
for that specific portion of town, but for the Alice as a whole, when they come in and say, hey, we feel like if you decided to do some kind of a theater or some kind of a stage or some kind of something, it would be best served to do it here. Because, like I said, I'm not trying to push things east or west or centralized, but we just talked about, was it the last meeting where we talked about it, or the meeting before where we talked about this recreational park over here where the soccer fields are going to be, and we talked about maybe a stage there, but allow these people to come in, do their study, and present to us what they feel would be the best solution.
Because if we did, proceed with the mobile stage, then that could be carried, and I'm just saying we have a great asset with Veterans Park. I mean, and I just don't want to ignore it.
Yeah,
like it is already built.
And more coming on the mobile stage. This was a teaser for, I guess, the budget meeting coming up.
Sorry.
We have some ideas. We have some ideas for hot funds that are going to be coming forward at a future budget meeting. That was a teaser for. So to hopefully be able. No, it's no big deal. But it's just one of those things that we really can't. We're not lined up to talk about right now. But yeah, that is another option that we need to talk about too.
Yeah, and those funds, it's hotel, hot funds, so I'd really like to be super careful with how we do distribute these funds, because something like this, I mean, just this one, and I know it's not a good, spec, but it's $1,252,000 for something.
Yeah,
right?
low end was $1,150,050, and then the high end was $1,250,000.
And that could be way off, but I just, I want to be very careful with those hot funds and, maybe use assets we currently have. But
Now, that does take into account $600,000 worth of land that we already own.
that we already have.
Yeah, so you would kind of strip that out, and we're still looking at, $500,000 versus $600,000. So there's still some money in this here, but yeah, I think that you're on the right track. I think we RFQ for these guys to come in and tell us how much they're going to cost us to actually put something like this together across the city.
Just the feasibility study.
Yeah.
My thing was more an amphitheater, only because what would be the draw, just to create more interest into Alice. Right now, we don't have an area that we say, or we can say we're known for, or to draw in revenue, draw in people from the outside. And that's the idea behind the amphitheater.
Nice.
And I think music is always a good way to draw people in.
Always.
So, yeah, festivals and so forth, so yeah.
Do you guys want to move forward with an RFQ for feasibility, and then we
I think so.
can get that started?
May I interject one moment on one more thing? The other thing, I'm not sure as far as how many people or capacity is for the Fiesta Bandana. If we were, because with the amphitheater, the goal is to bring in the big band people,
Yeah, babe, we had Selena.
we had Selena. Well, I was
in the
just saying,
creek.
like, how many
I was there.
how many people?
Right, you were right at the stage.
Do you know, well, if we could figure out how much capacity or.
What concerns me over there is parking. That's a big concern, huge concern,
huge
because it doesn't even do swim meets well. I've been there and had to park on the grass.
So that would also have to be a portion incorporated into the RFQ before these RFPs that we're going to end up having to get, is this idea of when you tell us the feasibility and cost, you also got to figure out parking, because cement is not cheap.
Not cheap. So that's always been my concern, with that. And I thought, how are they going to do that?
And that's why you do your study. You want to make sure you're going to do what's the highest and best use, and you want to do your due diligence.
Absolutely.
We don't want to spend money on something that,
But some of it is
No way.
also common sense, you
Yeah.
know? And it's a really small park, and, I would like something more centrally located. That's just me personally. I know there's a lot of property around here.
I agree.
That's my take on it.
It was the shindig back in the day
So,
for our size. I mean, it really worked
I-
nicely.
I am just not convinced at this point that we need a formal feasibility study. It seems like we've been down this path before in history, and it wasn't a good one. I think we have the resources, people, and vendors, or whatever you want to call them, within our reach that can advise us on the type of staging that we're going to need here in a small town. I have great reluctancy to enter into something like this.
I agree.
And that's why I think that at this point, only this RFQ, and then they present to us and go from there, not necessarily moving forward, but allowing us the information that we need to begin to move forward or not move forward. You know what I mean? But it opens the door for
How much time does it take, like for staff to, because I know that takes some time.
Prepare the RFQ and get,
Put it out there and.
oh, I mean, it's going to be a general RFQ process. I mean, it won't take too much time because it'll be a general process. We'll be specific on what we're asking for. And then just the, where's Josh, then the posting timeframes. Yeah. What's your estimate of time that it would take for?
You're talking about employee time.
Employee time.
To get it right and to have the budget for the advertising for that.
Advertise, because we have to advertise.
4 weeks.
But you're talking about, no, I think she's asking actual employee,
Like, how much would it cost?
dedicated employee time.
Because I know the advertising would cost us.
It would be just the way, I created these ordinances, and I'll work with upper management to make sure everything's right.
Day.
Things to go. I did one for ball fields when we were gonna go that route too before, and it didn't take too much of my time overall.
How much are
Maybe
the
a few
ads,
hours.
Josh? The ads, because we have to put it out there, right?
Yeah, to advertise it, you're probably looking between $200 to $400, depending where you want to advertise it at. Put it out there. That's about right.
Because like Ron said, we don't just want to throw
That's
money away
locally.
that we're not ever going to use.
Yeah.
For nothing, a paper.
Yeah,
Like we've come across a lot of papers that we've had feasibility and never did anything, and those were thousands.
The
I just don't
question
like
would
that.
be for you guys is, do we think that, first, do we think that we do need an amphitheater or not? And if we think, well, maybe, let's find out. And that's where, if the thought process is, we don't think we need one, then you don't do it, and that's where I see Councilman Burke is saying he's not thinking, okay, we don't need one, well, then the decision making will go out far. We don't want to do it if we don't think that we're
not even that close.
that we're not even going to get there. But if there's an idea that it may benefit our community, and then then you can.
Again,
Yeah.
coming to some of these budgeting ideas that I was talking about for the hot funds is, with again, going into this, one of the ideas that I had was, utilizing, if we get this mobile stage, utilizing these older stage that we have, the current setup and tear down stage, and actually kind of try to make it permanent at different locations, to start with some smaller stages, maybe redo this one here. We have seen some issues because of the ground and the way it was there for so long that there was no way to know that there was going to be some shifting on this little wooden stage that we have here. I mean, it's a beautiful thing that we have, but we can see that within time it's gonna fall out from under corner, And then the other thing is at the multi-use complex, we have the perfect little small venue already built there in that closed-in, fenced-in area right there to the north of the.
Take that
And
stage.
we just take this stage, set it up in that cemented corner, and utilize a smaller amount of funds to build some kind of a dome over the top of it using something like that. I'm just throwing things out there, so my idea is something smaller to get us going. The idea of sinking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into something is very scary. I understand the need for a feasibility, because that would be the only way that I would see.
If I can, counsel, I would recommend speaking to a promoter. I know one in Corpus Christi, there's others in San Antonio. They can give us a good idea of what we would need for a community this size, and that'd be a great avenue to go at virtually no cost to us to let us know. Barbara and I, for 2 years, have worked on the capital improvement plan, of which an amphitheater is part of that overall process, but so is a skate park. So it'd be up to the determination of council on where to allocate and how. And I would reach out to a promoter before doing a feasibility study.
Maybe that's the next
That
step.
might be the route, because it'll cost us nothing.
Right.
Yeah. A phone call.
Yeah, phone call and lunch. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Joshua, do you know, off the top of your head, as far as when we used to have the Fiesta Bandana, is there any kind of statistics, any kind of information as to how many people or
That
the
stopped
capacity?
so long ago.
I know.
I mean, it certainly drew in thousands of people, it did, for that area. And Veterans Park is a lot larger than people really give it credit for. If you look at the totality of the area, I don't know if Yolanda maybe even have any data on that, on what it would draw back then. Certainly, I don't think Juan was at the chamber at the time, so he wouldn't. I do know it had to have been in the thousands.
Well, I know I've heard some of our citizens asking, why
Yeah.
don't we bring that Fiesta Bandana
Oh, there's
back?
plenty that have come to
Oh,
me
that's
as
it.
well. Like, this would be a great idea, It's centrally located, there's good parking.
And electricity's already.
And, you know, you could expand that amphitheater too, just adding more to it.
Because you
So
could
there's
do
a lot of
that
options.
amphitheater where you have the electrical already.
Exactly.
And do like a little domey thing there.
Yeah, and we have the electrical restored now, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah, you did that last summer.
So.
Remember? We were trying to do the
Yes.
whole music in the park.
Yeah.
So,
We
let's
had a
try that
couple.
avenue.
Yeah,
And then you and I can work
Sounds
together
good.
on that.
that sounds
Is that the
good.
music?
I agree. I think
Yeah.
Josh had a good point. Maybe.
Hey, Josh. Thank you.
That might be the route to go, and then bring it back, cost us nothing.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Scott. I'll entertain a motion at this time, Council.
Yeah.
How do we make a motion to make Josh make a phone call?
We'll allow staff to proceed as they
Table
see fit at this
Table
time.
it?
Table it.
Okay. So then I'll entertain. Cynthia, you want to table?
Mayor, I recommend that we table this item at this time and bring it back
Okay.
at a later date.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay. Motion stands. Agenda item number 17 is tabled. Thank you, Ms. Carrasco. Agenda item number 18, review and discussion of the 2017-2018 fiscal year revised City of Alice budget and 2018-2019 fiscal year proposed City of Alice budget.
Mayor, we're going to have a budget workshop next week. Planning on having one on September, I believe, hopefully September 5th. And so we were wanting to go ahead and table this because items that we're going to have for tonight's meeting, we're just going to be debt service and a few other things. But if talking about September the 5th, about 8:30, if that could work, we can schedule that and post it and be ready for that meeting.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, Council?
Council?
Mm-hmm. Council's good?
September 5th.
September,
Okay.
you want to get back to us?
It's good.
It's good?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert, you good?
7:30?
Mr. Burke?
8:30
8:30?
in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
You're good?
Yeah.
8:30 in the morning, Robert?
Okay. Well,
You bring tacos? Okay.
we'll get that set and posted, so then just for this agenda item, like we did on the other one, probably, just for motion to postpone adoption of the budget,
Okay.
even though, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Esparza, for doing that for us. I appreciate it. Okay, so,
Mayor, I make a motion for postponing of the adoption of the budget.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, agenda item number 19. Consider and act upon appointments, reappointments, removal, and/or term clarifications of appointments, vacancies, and/or memberships of the City of Alice boards, commissions, and committees. I believe this was kind of carried over,
This
kind
was
of
carried over accidentally, it
But I
stayed
would
there.
like to say if we could get on, getting together with the committee that the council,
Yeah.
approved last meeting. I'm sure they're anxious and excited to get started. Keep Alice beautiful, commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who's over that board?
The mayor.
There you go. So, make a call.
It's Josh.
So,
We're doing the football point.
so Burke, you're bringing tacos on Tuesday?
We make a motion.
I would, and I say that because I think that, wasn't that created way back? I think the mayor wanted that created way back in
It did-
03 or
it-
04.
It did
and that's
start
why I
with
was-
the mayor.
Yeah.
I will be honored. I mean, if my help is necessary, I will squeeze another hour somewhere. Can the mayor make an extra day in a week? Because that would solve a lot of problems. Thank you, Josh. Okay, agenda item, so we don't have no
No action.
No action at this time.
Okay. Agenda item number 20, adjourn and/or consider and act upon adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. The time is 8:18. Thank you, council. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Good night. Thank you.